More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Foreplay, Long Time, Smokin'. When you hear the tracks off Boston's debut album, they sound like power pop brilliance, created in a headlining studio exec's office based on what's trending. Regardless of what you think about the band, it's hard not to acknowledge how good this album sounds. So what's the origin of the band, you ask? It must have been created by producers, right? They threw millions of dollars at them to make hits. No. Instead, this album was a long journey of the blood, sweat, and tears of one man, an engineer for Polaroid, who became interested in audio equipment and wanted to write the perfect pop song. His name? Donald Tom Schultz. The album where you hear every song on classic rock radio today wasn't recorded in some glitzy studio. Instead, it was produced in Schultz's own basement, where he ran cover-ups with a studio epic to pretend he was actually recording in LA. For years, Tom was trying to get the album to be picked up by a major record label. He passed around the demo tape, but every studio rejected it. It wouldn't be until 1975 that Epic, a label owned by CBS, would see its brilliance. They heard it and said, "We love it. Make the album exactly like the demo tape." John Boylan was hired on to produce this album, asking Schultz to record and produce it with his equipment in LA. Schultz was completely uninterested in using high-tech equipment that he wasn't familiar with. He said the only way he could recreate this demo tape was to do it in his own basement in Watertown, Massachusetts. Boylan, realizing that Schultz wouldn't budge, acquiesced and helped him run interference with the label. The song, Let Me Take You Home Tonight, is the only one recorded in the LA studio, and the only one that wasn't on the original demo tape. It was recorded primarily as a decoy, so the band could trick the studio into believing the entire album was being recorded there. Instead of using fancy equipment, the entire album was produced for a couple $1,000s with cheaper guitars and electronics. And the most surprising thing, this album would become the industry standard for production when it came to rock and roll records. You see, rock music was at a crossroads. A lot of bands at the time had a muddier, underproduced, and rawer sound. Look no further than Black Sabbath's Self-Titled and Led Zeppelin II for examples of what I'm talking about. But then this album comes out. You hear a song like More Than a Feeling with the perfect fade-in, 3 guitars on top of each other that sound like one, and bass drops engineered at the perfect moment to keep listenership engaged later in the song. Releasing this album changes the entire landscape of rock and roll for years to come. The genre transforms into a more produced industry where multiple guitar and vocal tracks become the norm in an effort to create more depth in each album's musicality. Even now, this album is seen as a benchmark for how strong the music production should be in an album. Tom Schultz might have been referred to by the label as a mad scientist in his basement, but he was also a genius. The debut album of Boston is his baby. The reason for its crystal clear beauty and wall of sound delights are because of him. That's not to argue that the vocalist Brad Delp doesn't show up though. The man has the perfect voice to back up the complex arrangements that Schultz is making. But it wouldn't have come together without that one man who had a dream to write the perfect pop song. And when you hear More Than a Feeling 10 times on the radio every couple hours, it's hard to argue that Schultz didn't get close. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I can't keep doing this without your help and support. I hope this helps. I love you all.